In this video, we will see some previously asked questions from the topic arrays which were asked in GATE and NET exam. Most of the questions are taken from previously GATE question papers, but yeah, there are some questions from UGC NET question paper also. So we will see them. So here goes the first question. So here is the question, that is a program P reads in 500 integers in the range 1 to 100 representing the scores of 100 students. It then prints frequency of each score above 50. What would be the best way for P to store the frequencies? This is a question from GATE 2005 and the options they have given are array of 500 numbers, array of 100 numbers, array of one is 50 numbers because 500 is repeated, array of 500 numbers and dynamically allocated array of 550 numbers. Hope the question is clear to you. That is a program is reading 500 integers, meaning that there are 500 students and they are given marks out of 100. So the marks can be ranging from 1 to 100 and the program P is supposed to store the marks above 50 with corresponding frequencies. That is, we have 500 students, marks ranges from 1 to 100 and we need to store marks above 50. Marks greater than 50 should be stored with frequencies. So this is what we need to do, and they are asking what kind of an array is the best way to store this thing. So the options are 50 numbers, array of 50 numbers, 100 array of 100 indices, array of 500 indices, or dynamically allocated array of 550 numbers, 550 indices which can store 550 numbers. So this is the question. So we have to find out the best way. Yeah. See, if there are 550 numbers, we can store the individual marks and frequencies. If there are 500 numbers, we can store the individual marks and frequencies can be somehow calculated or can be retrieved. If there are 100 numbers, all the marks between 1 and 100 can be stored, and another option is 50 numbers. So I'll give you the correct answer. The correct answer is array of 50 numbers. Array of 50 numbers is sufficient enough because the program is storing only marks greater than 50. So you need to store only less than or equal to 50 marks needs to be stored because the marks ranges from 1 to 100, but you have to store only 50 marks, that is marks greater than 50. So only 50 marks are needed to be stored. So only 50 marks that we stored. Now the question is how we can store the frequencies. The program is the program is asked to store the frequencies. So how will you score the marks as well as frequencies, because we have 50 marks to store and also we have frequencies. See, the answer is you don't have to store the marks. You just have to store the frequencies. Then the next question that will arise is, then how can we understand which frequency maps to the mark? So what we can do is we can create an array of 50 numbers, 50 indices. So the indices definitely starts from 0 to 49, isn't it? So these are the array indices 0 to 49. So how that can be done will be the next question that you will have in mind. So what we will do is we know that it's difficult to store both of them because we just have 50 indices. If there are 50 marks, where will we store the frequencies? So I'll answer that. See, to store the marks greater than 50. So marks greater than 50 means the first mark is 51, isn't it? So the mark means you don't have to store the marks. You just store the frequencies. We can retrieve the information regarding the marks some way. For example, you store the frequency of 51 in the 0th index. You store the frequency of 52 in the next index, and it goes on. That is, in the index I, you store the frequency of I plus 51. Okay, for example, in 0th index you will store the frequency of the mark I plus 51, that is 0 plus 51, 51. In the index 1, you will store the frequency of the mark I plus 51, that is 1 plus 51, that is 52. And it goes on, and in the 49th index, you will store the frequency of 49 plus 51, which is 100. So you will store the frequency of the mark 100 in this position. So we are not, these are frequencies, not the numbers. So frequency 51 can be stored here, frequency of 52 can be stored here, frequency of 100 can be stored here. So we can use the index of the array as an indicator to the mark, and the actual values in the array, the array elements will be the frequencies. So an array of 50 numbers is sufficient enough to store this. Okay, so that is the best way to represent it. So this is the answer. Hope that is. So here is the next question. The question is, which of the following operation is not order of 1 for an array of sorted data? You may assume that array elements are distinct. So we have an array. The array is sorted. For example, the array is something like this: 2, 3, 9, 15, 17, 27. So the array are sorted, and you can also assume that the array elements are distinct. So the array contain distinct elements. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the array indices. This is taken just for the sake of an example. And you are assumed to find out which of the operation is not order of 1. See, order of 1 is a complexity notation. Order of 1 means an operation which is independent of the length of the array. That is, order of 1 means an operation that is taking constant time irrespective of the size of an array. Okay. So, if you don't know about complexity notations, I'll post the video to the link of the video which is explaining that in the description box. So, which of the following operation is not order of 1? So, we will check out the option. Please do keep in mind that, and the question is just given that the array is sorted and array is having distinct elements. So find the ith largest element. See, since the array is sorted, to get the ith largest element, you just have to go to the I plus 1th index directly, isn't it? For example, if the third largest element in this array, is I minus 1th index, I minus 1th index. The third largest element in this array is 9, because the array index is starting from 0, that is why. So we just have to directly reach the I minus 1th index. So you can directly go to the, if it is the third largest element, you can directly go to the location index 2 and retrieve the element. That is, you are not even bothered about the size of the array. The array can be of 100 elements, 1000 elements, or even 1 lakh elements, but that doesn't matter. If it is third largest element, you are simply going to the second largest element. If that is the 1000th largest element, you simply goes to the you have to simply go to the 999th index. So, only one operation is required to retrieve that element. That is irrespective of the size of the array. So, second is delete an element. So, delete an element. If you are deleting 9, you have to shift all the elements one position to the left, isn't it? That is, if you are deleting 9, what we will do is, to show that it has been deleted, one thing that you will be doing is to make the representation efficient, because you can't substitute it with 0, because 0 will be counted as a new element. So that should not be happening. So what you will do is, you will shift all the element to the left. So if there are n elements in the array, nearly n elements needs to be shifted, isn't it? So that operation is dependent on the size of the array. For example, if you are deleting the first element or 0th index element of an array, if the array contains n elements, you have to shift all the n minus 1 elements to the one position to the left. So you need to know the size of the array also to give that inside a loop and all. So that operation take order of n time, where n is the size of the array. This operation really needs to know the size of the array and will perform the operation accordingly. Second is ith smallest element. Ith smallest element is again really easy to find out. You just can retrieve the element from the index. See, ith smallest element, if it is third element, you can take the element from I minus 1 position. Sorry, if it is the largest element, you can come from the end of the array. Okay, the array contain some 10,000 locations. You can take the element from 9,997 position. So you just need one operation to do that. You just need one operation, but in this case you need n shifting operation. That is why the complexity is order of n. So now all of the above, definitely not, that is not a choice, because to find ith largest element you just need one operation. To find the ith smallest element you need to perform just one operation. But to delete an element you may need nearly n shift operation. So nearly n operations are required. So the complexity is order of n. But in these two cases you just need order of one operation, or order of constant number of operations are required. So which of the following operation is not order of 1? So that is delete an element from a sorted array containing distinct element. So hope this is clear. We will move on to the next question. This is the question. Now we need to get the answer for this. They have a few choices. We will see the right answer anyway. So it is considering a square matrix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We will take this for the sake of an example and we will see what happens. So the index of this is 0, 0, this is 0, 1, this is 0, 2, and this is 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2. Now 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2, isn't it? So these are the indices. Now what happens is this program is running from I is equal to 1 to n and j is equal to 1 to n. So this will process every element. You know that it is the code, this is the loop we use for all the matrix operation. So this will be processing every element in this matrix, so sure. So what happens is when 0, 0 is processed, 0, 0 is, the code is, we will look at the code before that. So the code is temp is equal to a of ij plus c, a of ij is equal to a of ji. Now a of ji is equal to temp minus c. See this plus operation, we are adding something to temp at this point. We are deleting that from temp at this point. That is, this addition is actually cancelled here. This is given just to confuse you, nothing more than that. That is, we are adding 100 here, we are subtracting this 100 here. So temp is simply added with 100 and temp is subtracted with the 100. So in effect, temp is simply this value. So if we avoid this, it is temp is equal to a of ij, a of ij is equal to a of ji, a of gi is equal to temp, which is a of ij. That is, we are swapping a of ij with a of ji. The very normal swapping operation. The only thing is that we are adding c here and subtracting c here, so that it will create confusion in you. So this is simply swapping the positions a of ij and a of ji. So see here a of ij and a of ji, I and j are same, so nothing happens. So at this position, this is a of ij, it is 2, so 0, 1. So this position will be swapped with 1, 0. That is, a of ij will be swapped with a of ji. So 1, 0, 1 will be swapped with 1, 0. 0, 1 will be swapped with 1, 0. So what happens is these two positions will be swapped. So it will be 4 here and it will be 2 here. Now again this position 0, 2 will be swapped with 2, 0. So it will be 7 here and it will be 3 here. Now this algorithm will process every element in the matrix like this. So when it comes to this position, it is 2 here, that it is 1, 0. So 1, 0 will be swapped with 0, 1. So this will be 4 again and this will be 2 again. So when this process goes on, every swapping will be, every swapping that we have already made will be swapped once more. That is bringing the original numbers back to position. For example, when we reach this position 2, 0, it will be swapped with 0, 2. So this 3 will be swapped with 7 and this 7 will be 3 again. So the original number has been regained, or it is brought back to the previous position. So that is every element is being swapped, meaning that it is kind of the matrix is swapped twice. So when something is swapped twice, So the output of this is the matrix A itself. So that is the answer. Hope this is clear. We will move to the next question. So this is the next question. Consider an array consisting of positive and negative numbers. So what would be the worst case complexity of an algorithm to segregate the numbers having same sign altogether? That is, all positive numbers on one side and all negative numbers on the other side. For example, if the array is like this, for example, -1, 2, 3, -4, -6, something like this. What we are asked to do is we have to segregate this array so that all the positive numbers will come to one side and all the negative numbers will come to the other side. For example, yeah, -1, -4 and -6 on one side and 2 and 3 on the other side. So this is what we are supposed to do. Okay, so and we are asked to find out the worst case complexity of this algorithm, of any algorithm. I mean, what would be the worst case of complexity of any algorithm? That is, what is the amount of time that we may need in worst case. So we will look at the possibilities. So these are the numbers. We need to segregate them into a form like this. That is, all negative numbers on one side and all the positive numbers on one side. See, I mean, one way to do this is just go through the array, just move from the array left to right and find out the largest negative number. Okay, that is, move from the array left to right and find out the largest negative number. For example, the largest negative number here is -1, isn't it? So -6, -4 is smaller than that, -6 is even smaller than that, and the numbers 2 and 3 are greater than this. So find out the largest negative number. And what we, I mean, that is, you move from the left of the array, then go to each index one by one, and when you find a negative number which is larger than this, just update it. So like that you can find out the largest number by moving n positions. I mean, by having a linear search in this array, by linearly going from one end to the other end of the array and updating the largest negative number variable. So you just, if the array contain n positions or n numbers, you may need a maximum of n operations to do this. So n is the number of, I mean, maximum number of operations you require for that. Now once you get the highest negative number, you take that number as the pivot and perform the partition algorithm of quicksort. That is, you know that the partition algorithm of quicksort just process the array linearly, that is from left to right, and after one passing of the array, all the numbers which are lesser than the pivot will be to the left of pivot, and all the numbers which are greater than the pivot will be to the right of the pivot, which that algorithm just take n operations, maximum of n operations. That is, first thing that you need to do is find out the largest negative number. So take that as the pivot and do the partition algorithm of quicksort. So quicksort, what it does is, all the numbers less than the pivot will be to the left of pivot, and all the numbers which are greater than the pivot will be to the right of the pivot. Since we are having the largest negative number as the taking largest negative number as the pivot, the elements to the right of pivot will be definitely positive numbers, and elements to the left of pivot will definitely negative numbers. So I mean, finding out the largest negative number, just take n operation. That is, you can simply take a variable as largest negative number, some LA, and update this count. When you see -1 will be that largest negative number. When you see 2, that won't be changing. When you see 3, that won't be changing. When you see 4, that is lesser than -1, so that won't change. When you see 6, that is lesser than -1, and that won't change again. So in that case, yeah, it won't change. So you will get -1 as the largest negative number. Now do the partition algorithm of quicksort. That again process the array from left to right only once to divide the elements into two parts, having elements less than pivot and elements greater than pivot. So you can do that. So n plus n operations are required, that is 2n, which is again in the order of n, because when we take a complexity like this, we won't take constants into consideration. So we will get order of n again. So this is the correct option. Hope you understood. We will move on to the next example. So here is our next question. The question is this: a three-dimensional array in C is declared as int a x y z. Consider that array elements are stored in row major order and indexing begins from 0. Here the address of an item at location A of PQR can be computed as follows. You have to find out the correct option from this. First we will see the representation of a 3D array. Okay, then it will be easy for us to crack. So see here, this array is having x rows, that is this x. So it is having x rows and y columns. So this array is having some y number of columns, and inside each of this position there are there are one dimensional, in each cell is a one dimensional array of z indices. So this is how, this is one way in which we can understand this. That is, we are having x rows, y columns, and each cell of that xy two-dimensional array is again an array. So this is one way in which we can comprehend this easily. So x rows, capital Y columns, and each cell of this two-dimensional array is another one-dimensional array. Each cell is an array. So this is how each cell is an array having maximum z location. So this is how we can understand. So all the cells are having one dimensional array of maximum size z. So this is one way in which you can understand. Or you can understand that there are x number of arrays having size y by z. Or you can understand it like that also. But this representation will be a little bit easier for you to understand. Okay. So this is how we can do this. So now we want to get the allocation of A of PQR. See, all the options contain a quantity named as AO000. That is AO000 is nothing, and ampersand AO000, which is the base address of this three-dimensional array. That is this 000th position. That is the base address. Ampersand is the base address or starting address of the array elements here. So that is the base address, and this W is the length of an integer. For example, in most of the systems that will be 4 byte. So that means a single position here is 4 byte long. So that is the W. Okay. Now we will see how we can find this out. See, we have to come to the pth row, isn't it? So initial is x rows. So here we have to come p rows. So p rows down. So the indexing is starting from 0. So pth row means pth index means or p plus 1th row counting from 1, isn't it? So for example, the indexing, because the indexing is starting from 0. So this is actually the p plus 1th row. So we have to anyway pass p rows. So we have to p rows should be passed. So each of the p rows contains y columns. So p rows should be passed. Each of the p rows contains y columns, and each of the y columns contain elements of arrays of size z. So that is to get the pth row. Pth row means pth index row. Row at the index p means p plus 1th row, because the indexing starts from 0. So you have to bypass p rows. So p rows should be bypassed and should be passed. So p rows are there. Now each of the p rows contain y columns, isn't it? Because if you are having the third, if you are talking about the third row, you have to pass these 2 rows first, because it is given that elements are stored in row major order. So you have to traverse this complete row, then you have to traverse this complete row. For example, if you are accessing the element here, okay, this is the element at the index p, q and r. Okay, so to get this element, you have to read this complete row. You have to read this complete row. Then you have to come to this position. So if it is P, for example, if it is P, that means P plus 1 when you are counting from 1. So these P rows should be read. So P rows, each of the P rows contains Y columns. So Y columns. Now each of these Y cells, P into Y cells contain arrays of size Z. So all those storage space should be passed to reach this position. Okay, now that is it. Now you are at this row. Now after doing this, you are in this row. So in this row, these many, we are talking about the white column, isn't it? So it can be any column. So we are talking about the qth column. So we are speaking about the qth column. So all the columns before that should be processed, and each of the columns to the left of this we have arrays of size Z. So q into Z. Now we are at this position. So we are in the we reach this position. Now we have an array of size Z here. From the one dimensional array we need the rth element. So R. So the whole into W will give you the total number of locations you need to skip. So this is the correct answer. B is the correct answer. So yeah, that is it. That is to reach this point of this is thing, you need to bypass P rows. So each of the P rows contains a capital Y number of columns, and each of the cells P into Y cells containing Z arrays of size Z. So Z locations are there. Now to reach, when you reach this column, when you reach this row, all the columns to the left of it should also be passed. So to the left of it you have q columns, each of the cells containing one dimensional arrays of size Z. Now once you reach this, to retrieve this rth element, you have to bypass all the elements before the rth index. So R. Okay, so one thing you need to keep in mind is that when you say pth index, that means p plus 1th row. When you say qth index, that means q plus 1th column. When you say rth index, that means r plus 1th data cell, because the indexing is starting from 0, and since the elements are stored in row major order, you have to go horizontally like this. Okay, so this is the correct answer. Hope this is clear. We will move on to the next question. So here is our next question. Consider a two-dimensional array A of 2010. Assume 4 words per memory. That means the size of an integer is 4 words here. Then the base address of array is 100. Elements are stored in row major order. First element is A00. What is the, that is indexing starts from 0. So what is the address of A of 115? This is a question from NET 2014, UGC NET 2014. And these are the options given. Having done the previous question, I think this would be really easy for you. This should be really easy. So we will draw the array first. So the two-dimensional array can be drawn something like this. So it is having 20 rows and 10 columns, isn't it? So 20 rows are there and 10 columns are there. And it is given that base address of the array is 100. So, the newly found offset, whatever it is, should be added to this 100. That is very obvious. That is, in the previous question, we have done at ampersand A of 0, 0, 0 is 100. That is, ampersand A of 0, 0, 0 represent the base address of that three-dimensional array. So, it is given that base address is 100. So, the base address, that is ampersand A of 0, 0 is 100 here. Okay. Now there are 4 words per memory cell. Initially in the previous question we were given W. So here it is 4. So 4 words are here for an integer for this array. And in each cell is 4 words long. So 4. Now you have to get the address of 11th row, 5th element. So you have to get the address of the element and 11th row. So let this be the 11th row and let this be the 5th column. There are loads of columns in between and there are loads of rows in between. Okay, that is the address of 11th element in the element in 11th index row and 5th index column. The indices are starting from 0 0. Please do keep that in mind. So 11th index row means the 12th row. The index is 11, so from starting from 0, that is the 12th row. So we need to get the index of the element in 12th row and 5th index means 6th column. So 12th row 6th column. This is the actual when we are counting 1 2 3, this is the position that we need, that is 12th row and 6th column. So to get the 12th row and 6th column, we have to bypass all the 11 rows, isn't it? So all the 11 rows should be bypassed. So each of the 11 row contains 10 cells each. See, the elements are stored in row major order. So it goes horizontally, row by row. So to get the 11th row, you have to, there are column major orders as well. In that, elements will be stored column by column. So in this case, it is in row major order. So you have to skip, you have to bypass all the 11 rows to reach this point. So 11 rows should be bypassed, and each of the 11 row contain 10 cells, isn't it? So 10 cells are there. So 10 cells contain 10 columns are there. So 11 into 10 memory location should be bypassed. Now you reach this particular row. In this particular row, you have to bypass all the 5 columns, isn't it? That is, there are 5 columns before this. So the 5 columns should be bypassed. Then only you can reach the 6th column, isn't it? So that is it. Now let's try to get the value. So 100 plus, now 11 into 10 is actually 110. 110 plus 5 is 115. 115 into 4 is 5 4 is 22. 1 4 is 4 plus 2 6. Now 4. So 460. So 460. 100 plus 460, which is 560. 560. So this is the answer for this. So in the previous question we gave the format. In this question we took actual values. That's it. That was the generalized equation in the previous question. Okay. So hope this is clear now. We will move on to the next question. So here is our next question. An n by n array is defined as follows. That is, the array V of ij is defined as I minus j. For all I and j where I is less than 1, less than or equal to 1 to n, then j is between 1 to n. That is, the array indexing starts from 1. No, we are supposed to get the sum of the elements in this array. Okay, so we will try to draw it. That is of the array n by n array. So it is actually a square matrix. So this is the position 0 0. This is the position 0 1. This is the position 0 2. We will take a 3 by 3 array for the sake of convenience. 1 0 1 1 1 2. Now 2 0 2 1 2 2. So this is the array indices. Now we will it starts from 1, right? So the array is different because for all i's I is taken, it is given as it is between 1 and n. So it is 1 1 1 2 1 3 2 1 2 2 2 3 3 1 3 2 3 3. Okay. Now these are the array indices, not the elements. We will get the indices now. We will get the elements now. So the element is V of ij is equal to I minus j for all ij. So 1 minus 1 0, 1 minus 2 minus 1, 1 minus 3 minus 2. Now 2 minus 1 1, then 3 minus 1 2. Now 2 minus 2 0. Now 2 minus 3 minus 1. Now 3 minus 2 1. Now 3 minus 3 0. So these are the elements, that is 0 minus 1 minus 2 1 0 minus 1 2 1 0. These are the elements that we are getting. So we have to find the sum of array elements. So if it goes on, it can be even larger, that is 0 minus 1 minus 2 minus 3 minus 4, like that. 0 1 2 3 4 5 6, like that. So what we are supposed to do is, we are supposed to find out the sum of the elements. See, if it goes on as I told, it will be minus 3 minus 4 like this, and it will be plus 3 plus 4 like this. So what we can do is we can add the first row with the first column. So if we are adding the first column and first row, 0 will be, 0 is nothing. Then 1 and minus 1 will be cancelled. Minus 2 and 2 will be cancelled. Minus 3 and 3 will be cancelled. Minus 4 and 4 will be cancelled. Now we can add we can take this sub matrix and add the first column with the first row. Then this 0 is 0, and then minus 1 and 1 will be cancelled. Now we can take this inner matrix and it goes on. Now you can see that every element is getting cancelled. For example, we can do this on a bigger matrix, I guess. That is, if you are drawing on a bigger matrix, this position will be 1, 1. So you will get 0. Now this position is 1, 2. You will get minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, minus 6, and it goes on. So in this position it will be 2, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goes on like that. So if you are adding first row with the first column, all the elements will be cancelled and you will get 0. So this is the position of 2, 2. So you will get 0 here. So this is the position of 2, 3. So you will get minus 1. So this is the position of 2, 4. So you will get minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 6 like that. Sorry, minus 5 like that. And this is the position of 3, 2. So you will get the value 1. This is the position 4, 2. You will get the position value 2. This is the position 5, 2. You will get the value 3, 4, 5 like this. So if you are adding this column and this row of this submatrix, you will get 0. So we will consider the smaller matrices like this, and we will get a 0 eventually for all the individual matrices. So the total sum will be definitely 0. So for these kind of questions, you can take examples and work out on those examples. Only make sure that you are doing it right. So that's it. Hope this is clear. We will move on to the next question. So here is our next question. Two matrices M1 and M2 are stored in arrays A and B respectively. So each array can be stored in row or column major order in continuous memory location. That is, column major order means we will be reading the elements column by column. Row major order means we will be reading the elements. We will be processing the elements row by row. Okay. Order in continuous memory location. The time complexity of an algorithm that compute M1 into M2 will be. You have to choose from the option. This is a GATE 2004 question, and the options are best if A is in row major order and B is in column major order, best if both are in row major order, best if both are in column major order, and independent of storage scheme. See, the answer is it is independent of the storage scheme, because you have seen the matrix multiplication algorithm that takes in 3 loops and take each and every element of A's and B's one by one and multiply it. So that doesn't matter if it is reading from left to right or right to left. The complexity is equivalent because it has to take and process each element one by one anyway. That is, all the elements in both the matrices needs processing. So that doesn't matter. So the answer is independent of storage scheme. Okay. So hope that is clear. We will move to the next question. So next question, that is, what is the output of this particular program? A two-dimensional array has been defined. So these, and first row the elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In second row the elements are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In third row the elements are 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In the next row the elements are 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And this is the value of this expression we need to find. That is, the expression is asterisk operator. Asterisk operator A plus asterisk asterisk A plus 2 plus 3. So as you know, brackets has higher precedence, so you have to start executing the what is inside the bracket first, and then keep on expanding this and find out the answer. So before that, you know that it is pointer operations. These are pointer operations. So before starting with it, I'll give you the basics. That is the relation between array and pointers. Okay. So you know that if we have a one-dimensional array like this, you know that the first position of this array is given x of 0, right? The first index of the array is given as x of 0, and the address of this is the element at the first index. For example, 0 1 2 3 4, okay, and 5 9 7 2 3, these are the elements. X of 0 means the element of 0th index, that is 5, that is the element x of 0. And you know that ampersand x of 0 will give you the address of this location, isn't it? Ampersand x of 0 means address of the memory location containing 5. See, ampersand x of 0 can be also written as x plus 0 or x. If we are printing the pointer corresponding to this x, that x retrieves it is actually x is x plus 0, which is actually this particular memory location. Now you know that that is ampersand x of I. Ampersand x of I is equivalent to x plus I, because it is 0, 0 has been added. So ampersand x of I is equivalent to x plus I in the pointer arithmetic. And again, you know that x of 0 is the value 5, isn't it? To get the value of 5, you can either use x of 0, or if you are using this representation, this is an address. To retrieve the value at a particular address, you can use the star operator, asterisk operator, isn't it? So star x plus I gives you the value. So these are the two things that you have to keep in mind, that is ampersand x of I is equivalent to x plus I, and x of 0 is equivalent to, x of I, not 0, x in general it is x of I. X of I is equivalent to the value at this address. To indicate value we can use star, to indicate address we can use ampersand. So please to keep these notations in mind, that is ampersand x of I is equivalent to x plus I, and x of I, the element at ith index, is equivalent to star of x plus I. Okay, so keeping this in mind, we will try to crack this question. So we are executing the innermost bracket first, as we are supposed to do. So it is in innermost bracket, the highest precedence operator is this asterisk. So you need to find asterisk A. So we have simple A first. So if simple A, as I told, that is A plus 0. Simple A means A plus 0. A plus 0 means that is the address of A of 0. That is the address of A of 0. So address of A of 0, okay, this is the array, and that is the address of this one dimensional array, the 0th index one dimensional array. See again, this can be also understood as 1 2 3 4 arrays, 4 arrays of 5 in elements each, isn't it? So this can also be treated as 4 arrays of 5 elements each. So A is, if we are writing simply A, that is the address of A of 0, that is this particular index, that is this particular index, that is the index of 0th index 1D, 0th index 1D array. Okay, now now if you are giving star A, that means A is when it comes to 2D array, star A means first index of 0th element, index of 0th element in the 0th index 1D array. Because 1D arrays, because in case of 2D arrays we have to dereference to the individual arrays also. So star A means the first array, that is the first 0th index of the 0th index subarray. So that is the address of this one. Okay, because star A, because this is a 2-dimensional array, so star A means the address of 0th index element. A means address of 0th index array. So A gives the base address of this array. So if you are giving star again, that means address of this one. Now if you are putting one more star, it is taking the value, that is the value of 0th index element or 0th index subarray. So the value is 1. So star A is 1. Now star star a plus 2. So this is 1. Star star a plus 2 is 1 plus 2, which is 3. So this total thing becomes 3. Okay. So star star a plus 2 is 3. Now when you look at this, this is a plus 3. Okay. So a plus 3. See, x plus I. So here like that it is a plus 3. So a plus 3, when it comes to the two-dimensional array, that is the address of third index array, third index 1D array, 1D array. That is the third index 1D arrays. Indexing start from 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So third index 1D array. So this is the address of this array. So we are putting a star here. So star means the address of first element. Okay. So this star means address of this first element. Now here that is again appended with another 3. So when we give one more 3, that is star a plus 3 plus 3, then that means the third element, that is third element is 19, isn't it? I mean third index element, that is fourth element, address of the fourth element. So that will give you the location of 19. So when you put one more star, it retrieves you the value. So the value of the value 19 will be printed by this. So I'll repeat, that is ampersand x of I is equal to x plus I in pointer arithmetic. So x of I is the value at the index I can be retrieved as plus x of I. So this is when it comes to one-dimensional arrays. Okay. Now when it comes to two-dimensional arrays, if we have an array A of 4, 5, if we give simply A, that means the address of the 0th index one-dimensional array. If we are giving star A, that means address of the 0th index element of 0th index 1D array. If you are giving one more star, you will get the element here. Now a plus 3, something like a plus 3 means address of the third index subarray. If you are giving one more star, that will one more star, that will give you the address here. Now if you are putting plus 3, that will take you to the element at the third index, that is the fourth element in this case, so that you will get 19 here. Okay, so hope that is clear. So star a plus 3 is address of 0th index element of third index subarray, that is element of 16. But if you keep a plus 3, you will get the address of the fourth index element 19. So this is how you find this out. Okay. For example, if you have if you are getting a three-dimensional array like A of 4, 5, 6, and if you want to get the address of some A of 1, 2, 3, you can write it as that is, this is the declaration, and if you want to get access to this location, you can write it as A, and you need the first element, right? So you can write it as A plus 1, now star, now that plus 2 to get this position, now plus 3 the whole star. So this will give you the access to this particular location. So this is how you do this. Okay, so hope this is clear. You need to have a basic understanding of pointer arithmetic anyway. I mean that will be better. Yeah. So hope this is clear. We will move on to the next question. There is our next question, that is we are given an array of S1 to N and a procedure reverse Sij, which is defined as it reverses all the elements between the positions I and j, both inclusive. So what is the sequence for I, k, I less than or 1 less than or equal to k less than or equal to n do? Okay. So I mean this is a question from GATE 2000. So the sequence given as reverse S1k, reverse Sk plus 1n, and reverse S1n. That is we need to find this out. So for making this computation easy, to easily get into the answer, we will take an example. as an array. So we will take the example array as some 1, 2, 5, 7, 9 and 3. Yeah. So this is the array we are taking. So we will take some k as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will take some k as 2. Okay. We take k as 2. So what it does is reverse S1k. So all the elements in S between the positions 1 and k will be reversed. So what it means. So yeah, here indexing starts from 1. Okay. So the index is given as 1 because the array is different from 1 to n. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So all the elements between 1 and k will be reversed. So 1 and k means 1 and 3. So these 3 elements will be reversed. So 5 will come first, 2 will come next and 1 will come later. So 7, 9 and 3. These are the rest of the elements. Now we have another process, reverse k plus 1 to n. Rest of the elements are reversed. So k plus 1 means 4 to 6 will be reversed. So 5, 2, 1. Now 3, 9 and 7. Rest of the elements will be reversed. Now the whole array is reversed once again. Between 1 to n we are reversing the whole thing. So we'll get 7, 9, 3, 1, 2, 5. So this is the final array that we are getting. So we have to check with which of this which of these options it matches. So the first option is one option is leaves as unchanged, which is easy to verify, and that is not the answer definitely because it has changed. Reverse all elements of S. So if it is reversing all the elements, 3 should be the first one. So that is not the option. Now none of the above and rotate S left by k position. These are the two options that we have. Rotate S left by k position means 1 will go to the end, then 2 will move to the end, then 5 will move to the end. So we have taken k as 2. So 1 will move to the end. Yeah. We have taken k as 3, right? Yeah, sorry, I took k as 3 because we were reversing 3 positions because 1, 2, 5 were reversed. So k is taken as 3. So reversing, rotating is left by k position means 1 will go to this end, 2 will move to this end and 5 will move to this end. Yeah, that is what happened here. That is initially 1 moved to end, then 2 moved to the end and then 5 moved to the end. So 7, 9 and 3 were left shifted by 3 positions. So this is the answer and this is what we got. So this first one is the answer. So this is GATE 2000 question. So that is all. So we are winding up our discussion on arrays, and in the next video we will see GATE and NET questions from the topics tags and queues. So hope you understood. Thank you.